What's up, everyone? This is Josh Lyles with Sales CRM. We're a CRM specific for freight brokerages and freight agencies. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what we believe is one of the quicker ways to grow revenue as a freight brokerage, as a freight agency, and that's in the account management aspect. Everybody gets really intense on sometimes the new shipper onboarding, but let's talk about account management and how sometimes that can be overlooked.
Yeah, I think when I was in the space and in the seat making cold calls and onboarding shippers, I think oftentimes you get kind of wrapped up in your own world and you think all of your customers do research on you and they know everything about your company and what you guys do and what modes you handle. That is not the case. Most often I would call people up and be like, oh yeah, we run that mode too, or we move expedite, or we can do that. And they say, oh, I had no idea. Didn't know that at all.
Right.
I just thought you moved dry vans.
Yep.
So I think educating your partners and your customers on what you move entirely as a brokerage and not just what you've been doing for them can open up a quick door and a quick win in any account.
That's a good point. I mean, definitely when we were going through brokerage, we definitely went through a lot of that where when you're trying to sell your way into the account, you try to sell yourself as the open deck person or the reefer person or the specific mode just to get your foot in the door. But then you sometimes forget about all the different things that they do. And so one, I think it's really important in the sales process to understand what are all the different modes that they ship. I think knowing, do they have other locations and facilities that they ship out of? And do they have unique contacts that tender out their freight for those unique locations? Do they make their own decisions? Because if you think about it, those are almost mini sales within your sales process. Sure, you move one shipment for a shipper, that's a quote unquote closed customer. But if there's 5 other locations or 12 other locations that they ship out of, you got 5 to 12 more sales to go make essentially, right?
Yeah. It's one of those things where like freight brokerage sales is never over.
It's never over.
It's never over. It's a day-to-day thing. Like you don't close and move on.
Yeah.
You close and you just get better. Is how you should think about it, I think.
So I guess from just a sales management standpoint, what are ways, whether, from when you were in brokerage and whatnot, like what are ways to make sure that that stuff's staying on the radar? Because it's so easy to just say, okay, I'm so used to moving freight with Susan at whichever location and we just haul this stuff. But whether you're a cradle to grave broker, a split model broker, and you have support reps, like what were some of the 1, 2, 3 things that you may have done to actually keep that stuff on your radar?
Well, number one was follow-up tasks. You get so bogged down with operations, sales, meetings with your team, especially if you're in a split model. You're not just working with one operations person, you might be working with a whole handful. So if you don't have follow-up set, then you can get lost in the weeds and months can go by before you should have reached out to someone about a location, a deal, a bid, whatever. So that's number one, first and foremost. And then I would say secondly is just having good relationships with your team. Because they're going to say, hey, maybe I moved this one load on a hotshot or a Sprinter van or this mode for this customer a month or 2 ago, and I haven't heard anything about that mode since.
Right.
If you have that relationship, then you can follow up internally and figure out, okay, maybe we're missing here that we moved in the past. Or maybe I saw something on their website or I saw something on the road, and now you can take that knowledge and turn it into mini wins within a customer that you already have.
That's a good point. Yeah, it comes down to the organization and you got to know what they ship. And again, that starts in the sales process, but it's one good part about CRM, not to plug CRM, but that it helps is that you can organize it into a factor where you're saying, okay, we know that they have X locations, X modes that they ship. And that's something that we would always do in the sales process is understand what equipment types are you shipping, what modes do you ship, and then what are the special requirements? And then that was also an interesting question too to ask because sometimes they'll start you with their easiest, maybe most vanilla freight because they don't trust you maybe to handle their more complex freight. But then there was those shippers every now and then that would say, no, if you can actually solve this pain point for this lane or whichever situation it is that other brokers are struggling with, this is the one I want you to start with. And they just put you on the spot.
Oftentimes it was contact based too. One person would only hand full truckload. One person would handle LTL, one person would handle expedite, one person would handle project freight. So you might think you close the whole account and have all the access to all their business. Meanwhile, you're only at 30% because there's 3 people that handle their freight and you only work with 1. So asking that person, hey, we've been in a relationship now where I'm moving freight 6 months, a year for you. Is there anyone else that awards freight within the company? Like, who else could I talk to that our service might be beneficial to?
It's a great point. Well, again, going back to the whole purpose of this video, we believe it's one of the quickest ways that you can grow revenue, because
Absolutely.
the sales cycle to onboard a new shipper is going to take time. And it's not to say that you don't need to focus on that, because you do. But if you're more so in a pinch and you're sitting there saying, how do we grow revenue fastest? And if you're to sit there and rank, I would say, new shipper onboarding, expanding lanes, modes, divisions, facilities, locations that you ship with an existing customer, because you're already set up and onboarded, that's going to be the fastest route that you can go to increase your load count, grow new revenue within the current week.
Fastest way to put a win on the board. Absolutely.
Get those wins up. Thank you for watching and listening. This content is brought to you by our team at Sales-CRM. Check us out at sales-crm.com. Follow us here for more freight sales and marketing content. We'll see you next time.